Alright, welcome. So this video, this is going to be another case review. So the background for this video, the context, is I needed a case, and I was actually searching, and the thing about cases when it comes to building computers, cases are a funny thing. You know, you can have $100 cases, but when it comes to finding cases in the budget sector, it's really tough because the thing about these things is with how, you know, large and unwieldy they are, it's really hard to get the costs below a certain point because you have to ship these. So the dimensions and the weight of them just make it so, you know, it's hard and unfeasible to ship them after a certain point in terms of price. So you'll never see a $10 case that's this size. It's just not possible. You'd be selling it at a loss, a pretty substantial loss as well. So the reason why I give you that background, also, if you want cheap cases, my best advice is Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, because if you can meet somebody in person, now it comes with a whole other set of risks, but if you're willing to meet in person, you don't have to pay shipping costs, and typically you can snag a case at a much better price. You can do some haggling if it doesn't come with the original hardware, so that's my advice if you want a cheap case. But I also have this. So this case is actually one that I purchased brand new. I was going on Newegg to see what they had in terms of cheap cases, and I think what was interesting about this case for me in particular is this case is it's the Cougar MX350, but this is a full-sized ATX computer case, and I paid, I believe, $35 for it brand new, less than $40 shipped. So purchasing the case and getting it shipped to me, less than $40 for a brand new case. ATX, so this is not micro ATX. This can fit a full-size motherboard inside of it, which is really cool. I've never seen an ATX case be that low before, so that was really impressive to me. And you know, since I needed one anyway, I went ahead and bought it. And what I wanted to do was take this opportunity to record my unboxing, and we can look and see, you know, just how good is a $35 actual full-size ATX case. Let's take a look. So let's, I guess we'll start off by, as usual, getting it unboxed. So yeah, but no, I've purchased cheap cases before. You know, in the past, when I bought cases, I usually have gotten, for micro ATX boards, I'll just go with a micro ATX case, and typically if you want a cheap one, those will run about $40, maybe $45 shipped, but for this one, this was full-size ATX, so it can fit full-size motherboards. I don't believe it can do extended ATX, so no Threadripper, but I think it can do all forms of normal ATX motherboards. So we'll see. On the box here, we actually have a little. It actually shows you how long your graphics card can be, up to 350 millimeters. So that's interesting. Interesting. I think the this point on the box is actually kind of funny. Let me read it if you can't read it from there. Let me read it for you. 7 PCI slots. I'm sure they mean PCI Express, and support for up to 3 350 millimeter long graphics cards. I'm sure you'll be putting 3 graphics cards in a $35 case. I'm sure. Allow you to install all the horsepower you need to run games at ultra settings, 4K/60 FPS, and even more. When you add the capability of installing up to 2 2.5-inch SSDs and 2 3.5-inch hard drives, what you get is a case that can run and store all the games you want in the way you want to run them. I mean, I think that's interesting. Like, there really isn't a lot that you can do to advertise a case. I mean, it's kind of like a hard drive, right? it's just not one of the sexiest things ever, and you know, the case isn't necessarily going to contribute to your performance that much, but their flowery advertising is interesting. So let's go ahead and flip this upside down and get it open. All right. Oh boy. Come on. Okay. All right. Okay. So the case comes in, it's sandwiched between two pieces of styrofoam, and we have the plastic bag, typical for, you know, a case. That's typically how they're shipped. So let's get the styrofoam on, and that's the top. So that's the top of the case there. All right. So this thing has never been opened. This is a full unboxing experience. And it's a brand new case for 35 bucks. So, very interesting. Alright. Okay. Oh, oops. I accidentally pulled off the magnetic dust filter. So, I guess we'll start off from the side here. So starting off up top right here, we have space for two 120mm fans. Is that 120 millimeters? Let's measure this. Alright, let's see here. Oh yeah, okay, yep. Tape measure doesn't lie. Two 120mm fans up top. And what that means is you could also put a 240mm radiator if you want to water cool. You can put that up top as well. Now, first things first, this actually, it's funny, this actually kind of harkens back to some of the case designs we saw in the 2000s and early 2010s. So as you can see, you would normally expect a glass side panel here, and nowadays a lot of these cases have glass or acrylic side panels because it's just the trend and you can see all your parts on the inside. This does not have that. This is actually similar to the first case I ever bought, this punched out square metal side panel. And this is pretty neat. So this little grate here allows you to install a side fan. So you can do, that looks like 80 mil, 120 mil, and then, what would that be? Looks like 160 mil. I've never heard of a 160mm fan before, but you could, I guess presumably they exist, and you could put a 160mm fan here. And I'm not sure, for the side panel, would you use that as an intake or an exhaust? I feel like you'd use it as an exhaust because for most cases you want to have positive pressure where the air going inside is more than the air coming outside. So I would assume you would use the front and the top as intakes, and then the back and this and maybe the bottom as exhausts. Alright, let's move this thing around to the front here. Now this is actually pretty surprising to me. The front is fully ventilated. That's something that you can't take for granted. So you can conceivably put modern graphics cards in this thing because with a fully ventilated front, you're pretty much guaranteed to get enough airflow to it. You got your Cougar badge there. Their logo kind of reminds me of iBuyPower, like a cheaper iBuyPower logo. You have these little divots in the front here. I'm not sure what those are for. I thought maybe they might help you like hold it or something. My best guess is that they're just kind of like to help streamline air intake or something. Got a little tab at the bottom we can pull, and that releases the this front panel here. Hope, God willing. Okay, there we go. Alright, so that gives us access to the inside. So We have power switch. I assume that's just the LED for it, so no issues there. Presumably, no, that's a power switch. Yep. So it's weird that it's attached to this and not the actual button. So that's just pressing onto nothing. Interesting. That's all on a little daughter board, but you can take this off if you want to clean it. It looks like the ventilation here is not, it doesn't have any sort of removable dust filter, probably as a cost-saving measure. So this whole thing right here, if you wanted to clean the dust off of this vent, you would have to do it manually. As for I/O in the front, it looks like we have pretty standard stuff. Got power button, got reset, USB 3, USB 2, microphone, headphone. Doesn't really get much more standard than that. No USB-C, so it doesn't have USB-C if you're into that sort of thing. But you know, it's one of the concessions you got to make from, you know, a $35 case. That's what it is. So that just snaps on real nice and easy. The back side here, just a really standard, you know, punch out metal side panel. This really is bringing back memories of like the first computer case I personally ever bought. So it's actually kind of nostalgic for me. Here we have 7, as advertised, 7 PCI Express cutouts for your graphics cards and other PCI Express devices that you're going to use. Power supply cutout, and then this is interesting. Typically, with cheaper cases, you see they don't use this mechanism to hold everything in place. They actually, these little PCI Express covers, usually you have to like twist them out or cut them out or something like that. But no, we are at a point where you can actually use these little holding brackets to hold it in there, which is neat. I just want to get this thing open so I can see it for myself. So yeah, okay, so that thumb screw comes out, not captive, and then this presumably just kind of comes off somehow. How does this come off? Oh, you know what? You probably have to take it off from the inside. That's fine. Let's go ahead and get this open. So, just 2 thumb screws. Yeah, this is really kind of classic style, so no wonder it's going for so cheap. But it really is reminding me of, it's very similar to my first computer case. Slides back, comes off, just very, you know, standard steel, man. And black. Doesn't get much more minimalist and classic than that. And on the inside, oh man. I know it's a cheap case, it's 35 bucks, but I would have killed for this kind of thing back when, you know, I was building computers for the first time. This is a lot nicer. Even though it's cheap, it's nicer than my first cheap case. So cases have come a long way, for sure. And then let's see here. So this thing should just kind of release out of here. Come on. I'm actually... How does that open? Oh, okay. I was wrong. Usually this, I don't know if this thing is supposed to come off, actually. I'm not sure if this is supposed to come off. It doesn't seem like it can go anywhere. But it doesn't really matter, because I thought that these cutouts, these little punch outs, I thought that they were removable. They're not. Once you take these out, they are out. These are the kind that you have to actually like bend out of the slot, right? So see this, see that, see how I'm moving it back and forth, and then eventually, boom. That's not going back in. That's permanent right there. So yeah, be careful. Make sure that when you take these out, you want them all out, because you're not getting them back in. That's a real shame. So it looks like they were trying to like mimic what's, you know, NZXT and Corsair. They were trying to mimic the form of that little captive PCI screw mechanism that they do, but they did not replicate the functionality of it. So it looks like you would just have to put your screwdriver through here and screw them in, and it looks like this piece of plastic, that's what it is, it's plastic, it's not metal. It looks like it doesn't do anything at all, so that's a shame. But you know what? It is what it is. It's $35. Did I mention that? It's important. It's $35. So looking here in the actual chassis, one thing I want to do while I have you here is this. I happen to have with me a full-sized, full-sized ATX motherboard. If it looks familiar, it's the same i7-960 I used when I first upgraded the Dell XPS 630i. You can go watch that video if you want. Actually did very well. This is that actual motherboard. And I just want to test it and make sure that we can actually fit full-size motherboards in here. I think we can. I do see a problem, though. I do see a problem. Alright, so let's go ahead and put this in here. It's hard. I don't have a cooler to hold this thing with, so. And the problem is, unlike, this is another cost-saving measure, other premium cases have those little standoffs in the middle that will hold the motherboard in place for you. This one does not have that. It looks like this was designed for older style motherboards. See? Look at that. We just fit a full-size ATX board in this case, and we still can access all of our, that would be a tight fit, actually, but we can access all of our cable management holes and everything, so we should be able to run our cables pretty easily. It actually, that cable management hole lines up pretty good with that IDE ribbon cable connector, which is pretty nice. Got our 24-pin. That would be a pain to manage that 24-pin in there. You would have to bend that cable so bad, but it's okay. But yeah, that is the a test to make sure we could fit a full-size motherboard in here. But one thing you'll notice with this case is that, so you can see it takes. Hold on, let me put this back in the thing, in the bag, and back in the box. So what I was going to say is that what you'll notice is that our motherboard went out here to this side where we could get access to these holes, right? Well, the case, obviously, since it can do normal ATX, it can also do the skinny ATX, right? The skinnier version of the ATX, where it just uses this section, and you can use these holes as well, or instead. But the problem is that since our motherboard came all the way out here, you notice you have the brass standoffs right here. You don't have them on this side. So out of the box, the case doesn't have all of the necessary standoffs installed in it. That's not good. That's like, we need those for our motherboard. If I was going to install that motherboard I just showed you, I would need to have those standoffs in there. I mean, it's not going to prevent the computer from working, but you know, I got to screw that thing in so that if I'm putting the 24-pin in there, I'm not just heaving on the motherboard. I actually have some, you know, leverage to put it on there. So that's a shame, but I'm sure we'll find our hardware eventually. Got our power LED plus, all those switches, etc. Another thing, this is a $35 case. Look at that. It's got a power supply shroud. So you can put, I mean, presumably up to a full-size power supply in here if you want. I don't have amazing hopes for cable management with this case, so I'm going to recommend if you get this case, get a modular or semi-modular power supply so you don't have to run unnecessary cables and waste precious little cable management space. But yeah, no, when I was first building my first computer, a power supply shroud on a budget case was not happening. Not a chance in hell. So I think that what I like about this case is it's demonstrating that a lot of features, ooh, they need to taper some of this metal down, that's sharp. A lot of features that we see on more premium cases, or what was premium back in the day, is trickling its way down to the budget sector. I mean, just a great example is side panels, glass side panels. You can get glass side panels now on all sorts of budget cases. You know, no-name Chinese manufacturers. You can get glass side panels. They're not, you know, a premium thing anymore. Well, it's the same thing with power supply shrouds and, you know, fully front ventilated front panels. It's just that kind of thing where eventually all the good quality components, or, you know, the good aspects of a case are going to make their way down to the budget sector. And then it's like, you know, when you have something like this for 35 bucks, you know, why are you buying a Lee for $300, or, you know, why are you buying a Corsair for, you know, $100 or $150? And I think that's a valid point, but you know, I think that more premium cases still offer things in terms of, you know, cable management and, you know, modularity and just a few creature comforts that we might not necessarily have with something like this. But again, just give it time, it'll come to the budget sector. Up here we have our front panel audio, USB 3 for the front panel, so that's all there for your motherboard headers. Let's take the back side off and let's see what we're working with here. Again, just 2 thumb screws. They're not captive, so you don't want to lose these. Although, I mean, realistically, you could just use any screws to replace them. That's the thing about these that's great, is if you lose them, you can use any screw. It doesn't matter. Alright. I got our... Yeah, I put that power button back in. Alright, so this is what we got. Pretty sparse, actually. You can see in the back here, on the back of the box, they said you can install 2 of your 2.5-inch SSDs. Those would go right here. You would just screw them in from the other side, and then route the cables either this way or that way, depending on how you want. It's really up to you. And then again, this is so cool. This is another thing that used to be kind of more on the premium side. It certainly was not in, you know, budget cases when I was around. But check this out. Removable hard drive sleds. How cool is that? On a $35 case, guys. I mean, that's what I'm trying to stress. I mean, you know, I'm getting excited over this stuff, but you have to understand, this is stuff that, you know, just a few years ago we would not see on a $35 case. You know, this is like primo, you know, $100 case features that we're seeing here. So we have our accessory packet in the bottom, second 3.5-inch hard drive tray. I actually did not check. I'm curious if this hard drive tray is removable. Now, it looks like you have plenty of space for a power supply, but if you're using a non-modular power supply, which, you know, if you're doing a budget build, it's probably likely, you might want to have the extra room for your cables. And it looks like no. It looks like the answer is no. These screws at the bottom, they're not threaded. You're not meant to take those out, so it looks like that hard drive tray, that's a shame. But it looks like that is here to stay, because it looks like these little, I don't think these are screws, I think these are rivets. They're not, they don't have any sort of thread in them to pull out, unfortunately. So that's a shame. That really is a shame. So you are stuck with 2 3.5-inch hard drive trays. You don't have the option to take it out. Again, if we're looking at a more premium case like from Corsair or NZXT, you have the option of removing the hard drive tray for more cable management room. And that's another probably pain point that we're going to talk about, because as you can see, the back is pretty flush. Your cable management room comes from your side panel. You can see that it's kind of poked out, right? That's where your cable management room comes in. So you basically have to zip tie your cables as close to that as possible, and then you put on your side panel, and that's what gives you your space. So have our front panel cables routed here. Reset switch. So yeah, no rubber grommets, of course, not on a $35 case, but cable management holes look pretty, standard. Got room for a normal power supply down here. Got a, oh yeah, on the bottom, I have a removable dust filter, 120 millimeters for your power supply fan. Again, something you would not see on a budget case just a few years ago, so that's nice to have. I'm left kind of at a loss for words, guys. I really don't know how to feel about this. What it's reminding me of is, I don't know if you've been watching the channel for that long. What it reminds me of is that Corsair, that budget Corsair case that I reviewed a couple years ago. And I believe that case was 60 bucks. And the build quality, it was a little bit nicer. Maybe a little bit nicer finish on the steel. But overall, the style of the case was very similar to this. It had very similar features with the removable dust filter, the hard drive tray. The build of that case felt very similar. But what y'all need to understand is that that case was $60. This is $35. Oh, and with that Corsair case, no front ventilation. This has full front ventilation. So I am pretty impressed. I am very impressed with what we're getting for $35 brand new. Now, Cougar, not a brand I'm very familiar with, so if you're into warranties and things like that, be wary, but I mean, it's a $35 case, guys. I don't really know what else to say. I'm impressed. If I'm building a budget build, like a budget PC, I'd be proud to put it in here. That's great. One thing I should mention is in the back I showed you, we got one 120 millimeter fan here. That's it. You don't get any other fans in the front. So you get one fan. That's a cost-cutting measure to keep this case so cheap. They got to give you only one fan, and that's it. I'm not complaining about that. That's just the nature of the beast. You gotta cut costs somehow. I've seen cases that have fans that are like $40, but again, those are micro ATX. They're a lot smaller, so they're cheaper to ship. On a full-size one like this, you gotta save every dollar that you can. Oh, you know what? I didn't go over the accessory packet. So it's actually a quite nice Ziploc, reusable Ziploc bag, resealable. Got our instruction guide here. MX350. I don't know what this is really going to tell us that I haven't already told you. It's just got ideas for how you can arrange your fans if you want. So you can put your fan on the side panel, like I said. Use that as an intake or an exhaust, however you want. And then in the bag, this is neat. Oh, that's interesting. It has one of those, it has one PCI Express cover that you can put back if you want, I guess. So that's interesting. I don't know what it's what purpose it serves. When I opened the case, one of them was punched out, so I guess you could put this back in if you wanted to replace it and keep the covers closed so dirt doesn't get in, I guess. I don't know. A lot of cases do this now. Include a couple zip ties for your cable management. Cheap and thin, and they're zip ties, not, Velcro, but you know what? Again, $35. That's what you get. You got to keep coming back to that. $35. $35. That's nice. And then lastly, probably most obvious, we have our screws. So the rest, the brass standoffs that I mentioned were not included. Those are in there. A couple replacement thumb screws if you need them. All of the hardware that you need. Oh my God. They include the long screws that you need if you want to install a radiator. That's really neat. Got your motherboard screw in screws, got your power supply screws. I'm not seeing any screws for additional fans. If you want to put additional fans in here, not seeing that. That's a shame, but you know what? It's got everything else that you need. And I think this do the fans come with the screws? They have to. They have to. So yeah, that is the accessory packet, and I think that is pretty much going to wrap up my review. So this was the Cougar MX350 case. I got this for $35 off of Newegg, and I am just really, I mean, I've known for years that budget computer cases have been, you know, making improvements. I know that the game has changed since I built my first computer. I know that, you know, budget cases have come a long way, but I don't know. I find it so heartwarming that things that once were, you know, so high-end, like removable dust filters, removable hard drive trays, not having to screw the hard drive in, you know, to metal, magnetic filters on here, fully ventilated front panels in the front, fully ventilated. You know, that kind of stuff that used to be premium is now coming to the low end, so that every gamer, even the budget gamers, get to have a case that's really easy to work with and easy to build in. I just find that kind of heartwarming, to be honest. So yeah, but that's going to conclude my review. That is the Cougar MX350. But what I want from you guys is to let me know what you think. What did you think of this unboxing? Another case unboxing and review. I've done these before, and I will continue to do them. You know, what do you think of the budget cases? You know, do you think this is a good example of where cases are going in the future? You know, is it better than your first computer case? Be sure to let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're interested. I will have a link to buy this if you want. I will have a link down below. I know that I got mine on back order because they were going fast. So if you want one, better act now, because I don't know if they're going to get restocked. I think mine actually had to ship from Canada because they were trying to look for one. So keep that in mind. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for watching my case review. We'll see you in the next time.